Hello, young scholars. Mr. Martyrin here. This is the final installment of the Flipped Classroom on the Age of Exploration. In this video, we're going to go over the Commercial Revolution. I'm going to give you a little discussion about the idea of greed being a good thing, and I'm going to give you some of the economic vocab terms that you're going to need to know for the test and also throughout the remainder of our course. So, the Commercial Revolution. Well, what was it? Well, the commercial revolution is the world's first global economy. And we say the world's first global economy because, as you know, in our digital age today, people can trade and buy and sell things instantaneously from around the world. If you want to sell something that someone in Germany wants, put it on eBay and boom, you can sell it. Vice versa. If you find something that I want to buy and it's somewhere around the world, I can purchase it. So the internet has definitely shrunken our world in terms of purchasing power, and that really began with the Age of Exploration. So one of the things that we need to address is that the Italian city-states finally begin to lose their power and influence. Remember, for a while now, the class has been talking about how the Italian city-states are very strong and very powerful during the Renaissance, and they sit at the center of trade. That's why Florence was the birthplace of the Renaissance. But because of the Industrial Revolution, or excuse me, because of the Age of Exploration, those trade routes are now shifting to the Atlantic Ocean. And as a result, the influence of Italy declines, and any country on the coast, that is England, Spain, Portugal, France, they are going to be the key players in the new century. Europeans begin to invest money in sugar and tobacco. And when the colonies begin to exist only for the sole purpose of enriching their home country, we call this idea of economy mercantilism. And mercantilism begins to replace the old idea of feudalism. For centuries after the fall of the Roman Empire, people were living in these feudal towns and manors and fiefdoms. Well, now that's expanding because people can find better jobs out in the world. They can find better jobs sailing or exploring or getting new materials. And now they can get those materials and wealth from the colonies. So when the colonies are set up, the idea that the colonies exist to benefit the mother country, that's mercantilism. All right. There's also going to be a rise in capitalism. And this is the first time that this economy begins to emerge. And this means that people were going to use their businesses to make profits. And again, we're moving now from a traditional based economy that we saw in feudalism, where it was kind of a system of loyalties and protection and there was trade going on. Now we're moving to an economy where people are buying and selling things, and there's now the idea of coined money and value in currency. So that's a huge step in the global economy. And that's what the commercial revolution is. Now, the idea that greed is good, and greed absolutely can be a good thing because it means that the individual is taking charge and generating a profit. The standard of living during this time increases in Europe. So people are getting wealthier. They are able to buy better and nicer things. And in fact, they're beginning to live a little bit longer. Again, because all of the trade has opened up as part of the Age of Exploration. New businesses are beginning to develop, and people begin moving into the cities to work in factories. And again, this is something that we're going to address in a couple months when we discuss the Industrial Revolution. But it's the idea that these peasants that were once working in, in the little feudal towns, they don't have a job anymore. So they move to cities like London and Birmingham because that's where the jobs are. And they begin working in these small factories. And eventually, businesses begin to make huge profits. Finally, banks and insurance companies are now becoming more powerful. So what's happening is if you are an explorer or if you want to take a gamble and set out overseas, it's a real expensive venture. So you may need to get a bank to back you or an insurance company to loan you money. And that's going to be a huge element because we still have banks and insurance companies today. If you want to buy a house, if you want to take out a loan for a car or college, usually insurance and banking companies are very powerful people who have thousands of dollars, if not millions, they can loan you. And finally, to pay for goods, local or smaller banks are developed, and they use paper money in place of silver and gold. And the idea that if you looked at a dollar bill or a $5 bill or any money, it's backed by the value, it's backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. Well, now in Europe, the money is going to be backed by whatever government is in place in France, Spain, Portugal, and England. So the idea that people are becoming more wealthy, they're having more opportunities to get a head start for themselves is a key component of the age of exploration. Finally, some of the terms that you need to know. So this goes in the economic vocab section. When colonies exist only to benefit their mother country, we call that mercantilism. When merchants begin to use their money to build new businesses and create new jobs, we call that idea capitalism. A tariff is going to be a tax on imported goods. And finally, the domestic system is the idea of manufacturing goods in your home country. These four terms, especially mercantilism and capitalism, we will expand upon in class because these concepts are so important, not just for our class and not just for social studies, but for our world today. And I can't stress it enough that if you want to succeed in the 21st century, you need to have a real strong understanding of how the economy works, especially with you guys, because if you're competitive enough and you want to understand how to make a lot of money, you need to know where the jobs are. So you need to be able to anticipate the needs of a capitalistic and market economy. So that is our conclusion to the age of exploration. If you need to watch this or any of the videos again, please feel free to do so. If you have any questions about any of the videos, you can always post in our discussion board.